Welcome to Vacation Rental Mastery, where your host, Karan Narang, guides you through harnessing vacation rental investments. Whether you're new to vacation rentals or expanding your portfolio, this podcast fuels your path to freedom. Join us in this movement to transform your life. Ready for change and legacy building? You're in the right place. Let's embark on this freedom journey and master vacation rental investing together.
What is going on, everybody, as the room fills up? I am your host, Jamie Gruber. Oh, no, wait a minute. I am not Jamie Gruber, as you can tell, right? I'm filling in for Jamie, Grant Warrington, and we got an awesome guest for you guys today. As you know, Karan Narang, awesome GoBro, Texas, I believe. Karan is where you're at. And,
that's right, yeah.
We're going to learn a ton today about short-term rentals. And let's just let some more people fill in here. We got a packed house, and I want to encourage you guys, videos on, and I want you guys to ask questions too. That's why we're here. I know a lot of you guys. I've seen a lot of you guys. I haven't seen you guys in a while. Susan, I've seen you before. A lot of you guys, man, this is awesome. It's nice to be back here co-hosting. Again, if you're not driving, I encourage you guys, get your cameras on so we can see everybody. That's how we can all get to know each other, and it is a great way to network. So without further ado, Karan, I'm going to jump right in, and I just wanted to ask you that short-term rentals had seemed to be easy for a while, like let's say 2019, 2020, 2021, just like everything else. It seemed to be very easy, and like anybody could do it. So I know you're a coach, and I know you help people with this. So I would just want to ask you, like, since it doesn't seem to be as easy now, what are 2 to 3 things that you're doing maybe in this environment that you think people should be doing to be successful?
That's awesome, Grant. Thank you. First of all, thank you to GoAbundance and to Jamie and yourself for having me here. As you touched upon a little bit, I've been a coach in this space. To give you guys a little background, you're probably sitting here wondering, why the hell should I listen to this guy or what he's talking about? I've been investing in vacation rentals or short-term rentals in the last 4 years. And in 4 years, again, I do consider vacation rentals to be an investment class, a real estate investment class that allows you to accelerate your growth. It has its own place in your plan. It has its own place where it allows you to accelerate the growth. And I was coming from nothing. And coming from nothing, I wanted to achieve what I call my 5 freedoms, which is financial freedom, time freedom, location freedom, relational freedom, and impact freedom, right? So I wanted to get to this as fast as I could. And I said, what's the easiest path of least resistance for me? And it was vacation rentals or short-term rentals. Now, again, when we first started, it was great. It was awesome. 3 or 4 years ago, it was phenomenal. You could buy any property anywhere at a decent price, as long as you didn't really grossly overpay for it. It was very forgiving. You would make enough money, more money than you could imagine, to truly take and expand the portfolio. And I've been blessed to have started at that time when things were really easy, and it encouraged me, and it pushed me to take bigger risks, and I did a lot of things, and it led me to where I am today, which is actually not a bad place to be. I quit my full-time job December 31st, 2023. So now I'm in this 100% full-time, and it's been mind-blowing. So yes, things were a lot easier, several years ago. Now things have gotten really complicated. And I think, so I want to now answer that question you just asked. What am I doing differently to stay in this, right? What am I doing differently to stay profitable? What am I doing differently to stay in this game? And there's 3 main things that I focus on. One, how do I differentiate myself from the market? One of the things I'm doing, which actually has been wildly successful, and I encourage you guys to look into it yourself, I have gotten creative with my property. So I've, my best performing property, I've got a portfolio of properties, I've got 9 properties of my own, and I manage about 20 doors for other people, right? As I got into this full-time and I announced to my network that, hey, I'm quitting and getting into it full-time, they said, you've coached us, you've helped us buy these properties, you've helped us put all this in place. we're expanding our portfolio. I'm not ready to quit my W-2 job. I need the time and the bandwidth to do other stuff. Can you take on and manage the property for me? So we took it over, right? So it was easy. But what we're doing different is we're very creative. My best performing property is a property where we've gone all out. And while typical vacation rental or short-term rental hosts say, I'm not going to allow events, bachelorette parties, weddings, we've gone all out. We allow weddings at the property. We're honestly outperforming the market 3x on that property because luckily we've got the setup, we've got the location, and we've got the ability to host events. We do weddings there. When we do weddings at that property, we're talking a 2-night stay, a wedding. So, 2-night stay for 26 people, a wedding for up to 60 people. And we're charging them between 9 and 10 grand, something in the range of 9 grand for that one event, right? Our average nightly rate at the property, again, to me, remember, the investment's the investment. It doesn't matter. I mean, I put in almost $2 million into that property. That's the same whether I rent it out as a short-term rental, vacation rental, or I allow events at it. Yes, the logistics are different, but my investment in the property remains the same. So you have to get creative with these properties. I love bigger properties. I love properties that can accommodate multi-generational families, or multiple friends coming together to go enjoy a weekend away. That's what it's all about for us. Our brand is called Adventure Awaits. So if you get a chance, take a look at our website. It's called aastays.com. That's our brand. We've been building our brand from day one. When we started with the first property, actually we inherited that name from the first cabin we bought, right? So first thing we're doing different is we're changing up the highest and best use of that property. The highest and best use of the property may be an Airbnb or a short-term rental, which is just going to sleep 10, 15, 20 people. But we've now layered in the ability to host events, the ability to bring in other, experiences to that. For example, there's a gin called 1809, and it's 1809 Empress, I think is what it's called. But they actually came over to our property and recorded an ad for their gin, right? So that's the kind of stuff where you repurpose the property to bring in other highest and best uses. That's number one. The second thing that we do that is very different is we try to operationalize everything we do. All our processes and our systems, as we grow our portfolio, our processes and systems are growing with our growth. Being efficient, being sustainable. And I talk about, in our course, I have a course in a coaching program called Vacation Rental Mastery. So you can jump in and go take a look at that website if you'd like. But Vacation Rental Mastery, what we focus on are the 5 pillars of success in this space, right? We talk about the mindset, which is a whole different ballgame with vacation rentals and short-term rentals. We talk about the systems in place that support this. We've got actually a whole bunch of systems, from a property management system, a channel manager system. We've got a CRM system. We're implementing Go High Level. Some of the Go Bros probably heard of that here. We have our own direct booking website. We've got a dynamic pricing system. So all those systems come into play. We've got the processes that we heavily focus on. We've got the team. We consider all our cleaners. So we're managing, I believe, in 16 or 17 locations right now. And we have our team internally of our VAs who are in the Philippines who help us manage this business. And we have our extended team on the ground. So we're building relationships with the local teams, cleaners, handymen, plumbers, all these guys, and keeping those relationships alive. Actually, I don't even do it myself. My team does it, right? So my virtual assistants, they build a relationship with the local teams so that if and when there's an issue, they can jump in and do it. And then we talk, last but not least, we talk about the KPIs and the processes. What gets measured gets improved, right? So as long as you can bring in best-in-class processes and implement that in this business, you will survive. I truly believe that in the next 3 to 5 years, we will see a lot of the bad operators fall out of this game. We've had a lot of people come in, get into short-term rentals in the last 2 to 3 years because it was easy, just like I did. The only difference was, when I started in this business, I came from over 15, 17 years of deep consulting experience where I was working with larger Fortune 500 companies, helping them put in place processes and systems and doing all those things, improving their processes, that when we decided to get into this business, we said, even if we only have one property, we're going to put in the processes and the systems to give us the foundation to grow exponentially, right? So not only did that allow us to scale when we grew our portfolio, it also allowed us to almost instantly take over and start to manage properties for others when we pivoted into this full time. We already had the systems and processes. It hasn't changed a lot. We do come across new challenges today because we're managing in so many different locations and so many different types of properties that there's new things that come up every single day, but we continue to morph it. We're continuing to change these, right? So that's the second big one. The first big thing we're doing different is upgrading the highest and best use of that property. The second thing we're doing different is we're working on truly continuing to evolve with our processes and systems. People think, hey, I'm going to get this in place. I'm going to list it on Airbnb. It's going to work. Doesn't work that way anymore, right? So we need to understand that this is a business we're building. This is a brand we're building. This is a true enterprise. And an enterprise requires constant evolution to survive. So that's the second thing we're doing. The third thing that we're doing that is very different, I want to believe, is we're taking the time and the effort to truly grow our brand. I touched upon this very lightly in the earlier, but what we're doing is we're really pushing hard on our brand Adventure Awaits. Today we get 25 to 30% of our bookings direct. Okay, and you can talk to anyone who's in the short-term rental business. They will tell you that 25 to 30% direct is not a bad number to be at. Just the other day, last week, there's a property that we were managing in Delray Beach in Florida, right? And believe it or not, we got a long-term, 62-night booking for February or March next year, 2025. So we're like almost a year in advance. There's snowbirds wanting to go to Florida, but it was a $33,000 booking direct. That one transaction alone saved that owner almost $2,000.
Wow.
So just by the fact that we're building a brand, and and we've been working on this for 3 years. We do social media posts, and Grant, you know this, and most people here in GoAbundance know this, that these things don't pay off in year one. If you're not doing this consistently, and most people, I was watching a video this morning by Think Media, and they had this popular guy on it, and he was saying, when you're trying to build brands, when you're trying to build social media presence, you're signing up for a 7-year plan. It is not a 1 or 2 or 3-year plan. This is a 7-year plan, right? It takes time to generate and get that traffic. So, but we're all in it. Like I mentioned, we're upgrading our marketing system now. We're going into, we're bringing it into Go High Level. So we are retargeting every guest who's ever stayed with us, right? From day one, we've got about 8,000 emails for guests. We started, again, because we started our business with collecting these guest emails. We have a database of 8,000 guest emails that we can retarget right now and say, come and stay with us. We're going to give you 10% off, right? Or 20% off. That saves us as the owners 3% from Airbnb. It saves the guests almost 15% from Airbnb, right? Even if I pass on that entire 15% to the guests, I'm still ahead. So we're doing 3 big things to stay ahead of the game. One is we're upgrading the highest and best use of the property. 2, we're running it like a true enterprise with processes and systems and evolving with the business, right? Keeping it growing and evolving with the business. We keep reinvesting in it. And the third thing we are doing differently is really upgrading our marketing and our business model to grow more on the branding and the direct booking side of things. So these are the 3 big things we're doing today. I know it was a long answer, but it was a complicated question there.
That was fantastic. I appreciate that. That was great. I got a couple more questions here, and then guys, raise your hand. I'll call on you when you got a question. Feel free. We want to get all your questions answered. I don't want to hog all the time, but I got some questions here. First, where are your properties? And then how could people on the call pick a location? Like that's always got to be the biggest question. Like, where do I do this at? Right? What would you recommend?
So our properties are primarily in Texas, Oklahoma, and Alabama. These are our three big markets. But we're managing, like I mentioned, for others, California, Palm Springs, the most controversial market at the moment. So we've got California, we've got the Poconos in Pennsylvania. In Florida, we're managing a few properties. So there's properties all over. So like I mentioned, we're in 16, 17 locations at the moment. We're managing all over the place. And again, do not think, again, get it out of your mind that you're going to invest, oh, it needs to be 2 hours from home. Actually, my least favorite ones are the ones that are too close to home, because then when the light bulb isn't working, you say, I'm going to go fix it, and I'm going to fix my garage, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do that, and you give up on that time freedom we were talking about. I would rather see these properties be somewhere a little bit at a distance, where you can actually go and lean on building a team locally and growing that business, right? You're not scalable if it's just you. So from a location perspective, there's a number of different locations. My favorite ones right now are, honestly, my favorite location right now is Texas Hill Country, like the Austin and Austin suburbs and all those areas, because it's a longer season market. A lot of people still go to the Smokies. Smokies is by far the biggest market, I think, in this whole space, and it's got the largest number of visitors. It's got the national park, and it continues to grow. So if you want kind of a no-brainer, hey, I'm going to put my money, I don't need anything like any sort of abnormal returns, right? If you're okay with normal returns, put the money there. You'll see it. You typically won't lose money in that market unless you grossly overpay for it. So there's markets to be had all over. Now, what I tend to stay away from is disputed markets where, like California, I won't enter, right? They're not owner friendly at all, right? And they're trying to ban these properties everywhere. New York, I won't enter into. When there's so many other places you can go, why bother getting into those kind of complicated situations where someone else is going to tell you how to run the business? So a number of markets out there. Bradenton, not Bradenton Beach, Bradenton in Florida is one of my favorite at the moment. Hill Country, Texas Hill Country, and like I mentioned, the Smokies is still, it goes around.
Nice. I love that. So one more question, then we got Andre, we'll get to your question. I'm going to ask you to jump on and ask it yourself here in a minute. But if people wanted to get started, do you suggest like, hey, start with a small little one, or buy luxury? Is like luxury your best option, or like where do you fall in there? I know it probably depends on your situation, but what do you suggest?
Yeah, so Grant, that the audience here is generally more aware than the common public outside. They're involved in this community that is so heavily focused on multi dimensions of what we are trying to achieve. Right? We want to make money, but we want to have quality family lives as well with our family. We want to do other things. We want to travel the world. We want to be in our best shape physically, right? So that's what GoBund is all about. So I'll cater to this audience, right? For this audience, I'm going to say go with the biggest property you can afford to buy, because the return on investment is likely higher. But let's say that's not the most important thing. It's the return on the time and the effort that you put in. I would rather put in that same time and the effort on a bigger property and get a higher return than on a smaller property. So my philosophy generally is go with the biggest property you can buy, right? Now, again, there are some markets where the big properties don't do really well, but generally speaking, what they say, heads in beds does make a difference. So if you have a property that sleeps, is a condo, 2-bedroom condo that sleeps 6 people, and with the same kind of money, if you can go buy a property that is a single family home that sleeps 12 or 14 people, you're bigger off. 90% of the times you're bigger off buying that bigger property. Okay. So to me, if you value your time and the return on your time as much as I do, then you're going to go pick the bigger ones.
Nice. I love that. That makes a lot of sense. Andre, can you jump on, Mark, can you bring him forward too and have him ask his question? And unmute him.
Hi, can you guys hear me all right?
Yeah, there you go.
Yep.
Yeah, thanks for taking my question and all the information you provided. I have a short-term rental in Big Bear, and we're trying to get to the point where we have direct booking. So I'm just curious, how you're structuring it or what you utilize to make that happen. Yeah, when you said 30%, that's incredible. And you know, I think the average is like 5%. So just want to know what you're doing with all those emails you had mentioned and kind of what I could apply. Thanks.
Yeah, so it's a, when you're with one property, it gets really tricky. And I'll tell you why. Because with one property, the juice may not be worth the squeeze, right? It takes a lot of effort. It's taken us almost 3 years to get to this point. But I'll tell you what my system is, just so you can take away something really tangible from this. We're hosting our website on Wix, W-I-X, right? That's a very common platform. I actually built it myself, just playing with it. When I had a lot more time, I was able to kind of drag and drop and build this website. And I like it so much that I don't want to get rid of it, so I still kind of keep it up and do stuff, right? So Wix is a good platform, easy to use, that you can use. And on it, because from our property management perspective, we use a system in the back end called owner res or owner reservations. Okay, this is the brains of our operation. It allows us to connect Airbnb, VRBO, our direct booking website, and a bunch of other channels. You can connect booking.com, TripAdvisor, you can do all that stuff, right? But it's kind of the brains where it makes sure that when you have a booking from Airbnb, it doesn't double book on VRBO and the likes. So that's basically the function. They give me a capability of having what I call widgets, right? Which are literally little pieces of code that are embedded into my Wix website, where when you go to my Wix website, and I'll put this in the chat here for you guys, take a look at it. This is a very simple Wix website. And if you go to these properties on their page, you'll see a calendar, you'll see a booking form, and you can go in and you can book a property right now. And this is all basically owner as in the back end, showing you the calendar live and showing you the pricing live. And you can basically go in and have a full transaction there. So that's the booking on the transaction platform itself. As I mentioned, on the emails and the direct marketing campaigns that we're doing, we were in MailChimp. We were using MailChimp. And I think we've gotten to a point where MailChimp is costing us $300 a month just because we're keeping the emails at the size of the database. And obviously from a few GoBros, I heard about Go High Level. And I said, you know what, why don't we bring it in? Because for the same price or less, I get a fully functional CRM system where I can manage the leads and I can communicate, I can have landing pages, I can do so many different things there. I can connect it to my social media. You can also go and take a look at our Facebook page for marketing campaigns and posts that we do, and I'll put that here as well, the tag for it, so that you guys can check it out. But essentially, we do a lot of social media posts, and people end up finding us there, right? And the whole idea of posting on Instagram and Facebook is not to get followers. It's not to target an audience there. What happens is every listing that we have on Airbnb, it actually clearly states, when you go in and look at the description, it says, for example, we have a property called The Loft, okay? It's a penthouse loft, and we say Adventure Awaits, The Loft, hosted by or by Adventure Awaits Stays. So most people who've done this before, they go online, they go to Google and they type in Adventure Awaits Stays, and they typically will find our website or they'll find our website, or they'll find Instagram, or they'll find Facebook. We're just putting on our name over and over and over again so that the search engines pick it up. And now people say, oh, wait, Adventure Awaits Stays, I see it. Let's go book there, book direct, right? So we convert the bookings that way. Does that make sense?
Andre, did that make sense? Did that answer your question?
Well, I guess we lost him, but again, I hope.
Might be muted.
Oh yeah, he did say yes. He sent me a message saying yes. Okay.
Nice,
Awesome.
nice. No, that was fantastic, guys. Get your questions out too, and raise your hand. We'll call on you guys, and you guys can jump in here. I wanted to ask you too, in your the coaching side of it, do you help people find these properties, or do they just come to you like, I don't know anything, can you help me?
Yeah, so typically speaking, most people will come to us in that state saying, I'm really not sure what I'm doing. I know this is a good place to be. Can you help me out? Right?
Okay.
So we basically do the end to end. Actually, we've just launched our first program. For the last 3 years, I've coached individual one-on-one, right? I've coached about 40 people, typically high-income professionals who want to shelter their W-2 taxes. So if you guys are in a W-2 job at the moment, keep in mind that the only vehicle that you have, the only thing that'll allow you to shelter your actual W-2 paycheck, which is your highest earned income, highest tax dollar, the only thing that'll help you there is short-term rentals or vacation rentals, right? To offset the highest tax dollars. So this is what I've been helping people do for the last 4 years, and we do it all the way from start to finish, which is we help people come up with a strategy. Hey, if you come to me and say, I just want to invest it so I can shelter my taxes, and then I have no interest in building this as a business, the plan is a little different. And if you say, hey, I want to do this, and in 3 to 4 years, I want to kind of do what you're doing, which is quit my job and just do this full time, that's a different path. But technically speaking, if you came to us and said, hey, we need help getting into this space, we'll help you identify the property. We'll connect you with the right realtors and the right places to get you those properties. We connect you with the lenders. We will coach you in how to manage, how to get these properties listed and how to manage it, how to put these processes and systems in place and basically be sustainable after it's live. So end to end, everything you need, all you need to arrive at, is to come up and say, hey, I got $100,000 down or $200,000 down, and this is what I want to do. And we put a path together and help you out.
Nice. I like that.
Yeah.
Perfect. That's extremely helpful because that's where I would be, right? I'd be like, I need some help.
And one of the things we're doing is in April, we're starting our first, I'll call it the cohort program, because I have a performance coach who said, you're doing people a disservice by keeping it one-on-one, because when you have a small group environment, a cohort-based environment, people pick off of each other and they're making much bigger strides. So you have to, again, the best vehicle for us to do this is in that small group setting. So we're launching that in April, and it's basically completely turnkey. It's a cohort-based thing where in about 12 weeks, the program is 12 weeks itself, and in 12 weeks, we're pretty certain that you would have at least a property on a contract. And as a bonus, what we're also doing, you're going to be shocked with this one, Grant, is I am making my operational team available for support for the first 45 days of your operations. Let's say you go in and you buy the property, okay? After you go live, you're wondering, hey, what the hell do I do if my cleaner doesn't show up? You don't know what to do with it, right? Hey, there's a turn and the cleaner didn't show up. My guys know exactly what to do when that happens, right? So lending the people who are going through the program the ongoing operational support for 45 days.
Wow,
So
that's huge.
it gives people the time, man. I tell you, we want people to be successful at it. It gives people the time to actually have hands-on experience and be successful.
You're 100% right. Chris, I'm going to come to you in 1 second. Cameron, then Nate. You're 100% right. A lot of people don't realize that when they get involved with coaching or a program, there's this big question and then there's this big question. And I have 100 questions in between.
Yeah.
And you don't realize that until you get in the game. And then you're like, wait a minute, what about this, 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 and this? So when you said that to me, I'm like, oh, that's a no-brainer. That is fantastic because you are going to hold my hand and make sure I'm successful.
Oh, absolutely. And you know what happens? I can coach you all you want. We can sit here and talk about it on and on for the next 12 weeks. But when the rubber meets the road, that's when you know that shit's getting real.
Yeah.
That's when 100%. You need that support the most. So I said, you know what? We're going to make our team available for it because we want to make sure Grant is successful. Grant's, going to be able to do something there.
Yeah, I love that. Been in property management 10 years and we still get phone calls and I'm like, I would have never even dreamed of that in my life. So to have somebody that's been there is huge.
And you know what, again, just to tell you why we even came upon that. If we hand it off and you take and run this property and you have a bad experience that first 60 days, you're going to swear by it and say, I'm never doing this ever again in my life. And I know that this can be life-changing for people. It's changed my life, right? So I'm like, if I allow you to go through that negative emotion and you decide to never do this again, I have done you a disservice at that point.
Yeah, I love that. I refer to that as like Uncle Bob. Everybody's got an Uncle Bob that'll tell you, don't invest in real estate. I did it
Yes.
20 years ago, and it
Yep.
was, and you're like, oh my gosh, I should probably listen to them, right?
Correct.
You listen to successful people like you, not from people that, I always want to listen to people that have what I want to have.
Yep.
And they're in the game. So that's awesome.
Awesome.
Chris, I'm going to ask you to unmute and ask your question.
Right on. Yeah. Grant, you are looking nice and tan, brother, from that Florida. I like it.
It's nice. Hey man, I got look too.
Oh yeah.
Shorts on too, man. No shoes. Loving it down here, man.
Oh, that's awesome. Karan, thank you so much for being here. Really appreciate it. I heard you mention, I'm on the West Coast up in here in Oregon,
Awesome.
and I heard you mention California, Palm Springs,
Yeah.
and you not wanting to invest in California. And
Yeah.
is that for the reasons of tenant friendly, blue state? I mean, or the regulations with STRs? Like, what is it specifically that doesn't, pushes you away from California?
See, it all starts with the fact that these are hard-earned dollars. Our money is hard-earned money, right? No silver spoon and no, hey, here's a couple $1,000,000, go play with it, right? This is hard-earned money that I am working on investing to build my business, right? And the last thing I want is the city or the state or the county or the neighborhood or the HOA telling me how to run my business. I'll give you an example. So this Palm Spring property we manage, it's about a $1.5 million property. It's going to make good money. The returns are decent, but they have handcuffs. The handcuffs are you can only rent it out 26 times a year. Okay, that's number one. So if I don't price the property right, and if I end up booking it 26 times and I don't hit my revenue number, guess what is done? My return is terrible at that point. So there's handcuffs. So yeah, okay, let's face that, that's fine. Two, there's a permitting process. If for any reason my guest ends up making too much noise and the neighbors complain, and that happens 3 times, I get my permit yanked. My $1.5 million investment just went down the drain. 3 is, after all of this, after putting up with all of this, guess what happens a few weeks, maybe a month ago? The guest calls us up. I still have a recording of that call and says, we're outside the house, we're freaking out, there's somebody in the spare bedroom. Somebody just got in overnight and slept in the spare bedroom, okay? And why would I even bother? When there's so many other markets that I can invest in without the headache, why would I bother? So,
That makes sense.
and we reported the guy to the police and they said, oh, we can't really do anything about it. We can just tell him not to come back. And I'm like, okay, well, he was a homeless guy and coming in and he was there, it could have been dangerous. There's a liability issue, right? I was like, okay, what? That's not something for us. We're going to stay away from that. So when I can't run my business my way, then I'm not going to. It's just not good business in my opinion.
And that's not your property. That is a client's property.
Exactly, it is a client's property, right? And honestly, we're managing the headache for them.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Thank you for answering that. Appreciate that.
Nice. I gotta say, great question too, Chris. I gotta say, this is, I'm not going to get political, but one thing I loved living in Florida, Ron DeSantis, I woke up a couple of weeks ago and found out there's no squatters law now that they're putting into effect, and they are not going to allow squatters in Florida. Like, oh my gosh, nobody. And Republicans and Democrats came together on this. It's just nice living in a state where you get wins. Like I came from Michigan and they would have passed the opposite law. And it's just amazing. Like this should be everywhere. There should not be squatters, should not have rights. And I was just so excited to see that, man.
I will forward along to you guys. Someone posted, I didn't even go through and read it. Apparently there's a squatter who got paid $80,000 or something. I saw that article, someone sent it to me. I haven't read it yet, but I'm like, why is the government paying someone $80,000 because he's a squatter? And I'm like, okay. Luckily I live in Texas, man. I'll tell you, rules are a little different here.
Yeah, it's great. And that's exactly why. Yeah. Texas and Florida, man, great places to be.
Yeah.
Cameron, go ahead, buddy.
Hey, Grant, thanks for hopping on and chatting. I have a question. I have an Airbnb that we use as an event space. And I also have an owner that only wants to use their home as an event space. So my question is, 1, are you using Peer Space? And 2, how are you structuring that? if it's running in parallel with your Airbnb to manage the reservations, etc.
So unfortunately, yes, we are using Peerspace. We don't get too much from there. Actually, most of our events actually still come from Airbnb. So one of the big things that has been a game changer for us also is the ability to tell these event guys, because what happens, events is a very different game. When you're having a wedding, you want to see the space. When you're having an event, you want to see the space before you book it. Airbnb doesn't even allow us to share an address, even if you want to give the person a tour, right? So what we've started doing is, like I mentioned, our listing clearly says it's by adventure awaits stays. People go look us up online, they do a simple Google search and they find us. They find our listing on Airbnb, but then they end up doing a Google search and finding us otherwise. Now we take a deposit from them, we give them a virtual tour of the property. Then if they're still interested, they come for a physical tour and they book it. And we, in Peerspace, if you're doing it in Peerspace, you literally have to go block the calendar. Now, what I'm doing differently is we have priced the property outrageously in Peerspace. Okay? So for example, the gin company that booked our property for a few hours, maybe 6 hours it was or whatever, I think they paid us over $5,000 for those 6 hours, right? That's because we have priced the property outrageously there. We discourage that almost entirely. I strongly believe that if the property does allow sleeping, I would put it on Airbnb and I would just run it there.
Yeah, so I'm trying to figure out, are you listed on Airbnb experiences? The issue is it's a super unique property and the owner has a lot of high valued items. And so he doesn't want people to stay there overnight because he's afraid they're going to drink and bump into stuff. It's like a replica Fenway Park is there with items from Fenway Park. So it's a really unique experience for day events. Just trying to figure out how to structure it with him moving forward to take advantage of the extra traffic I can get from Airbnb, but not being able to get people to stay overnight. So one thought I had was listing it for like $10,000 a day or something and seeing if people show up. They can reach out with inquiries and say, yeah, we allow day events only. So I wasn't sure how you were working any of that out.
So absolutely do it, because every marketing channel you can put it on, that's a marketing channel for you. For me, it's a booking channel still, right? It blows my mind. We just had this, the eclipse, right? Down in Texas. We had a 5-night booking for, I think it was $26,000 for 5 nights, right? And he booked it through Airbnb. He paid well over $30,000. And I said, hey, do you want to book it directly? He's like, no, I'm okay with it. So that channel still works. So you'd be surprised. I would actually speak to the owner and say, if it's a very high value property with these unique items that are there, rent it at $10,000 a night. Would he allow that? I mean, yeah, I know, but there's a value to everything, and there's people who are still crazy enough to do it. If you do get an inquiry and someone wants to book at $10,000 a night, maybe it's an option. To me, it's all about if it's truly an investment. Now, if it's something that's a lifestyle property for him and he wants to keep it for generations and all that stuff, that's a different thing. But if that's the case, yeah, I would list it there at a super high price and let people ask you questions. You'd be surprised. People ask questions if it's really low price, and people ask questions if it's really high price because they're curious now, what the hell is going on with this? I would put it out there everywhere.
Okay, yeah, we're working on it. He wants to start with day events only. It is just a lifestyle purchase. So but he wants to share the experience with other people. So he wants to work his way up to overnights. So maybe I can get people to inquire and then say we only allow day events and kind of work through those channels.
I'd love to see the property. If you want to send it over, send me a listing. I'd love to see it. I want to see what's so unique, and I'd love to see it.
Yeah, I'll send you over some photos. I got your email.
Awesome.
That's huge. Thanks, Cameron.
Yep.
Nate, go ahead, buddy.
Thanks, Grant. And thanks, Karan, for hopping on, sharing your knowledge today. My question is, I have a few short-term rentals. Obviously, the market has changed quite a bit over the last few years. We're looking to continue to grow. My question is, are you still buying? And if so, how has your evaluation of properties or your buy box evolved as the market's changed, or has it?
So we continue to look for them. We're definitely a lot more stringent right now on what we're buying, what we're not buying, right? One of the things that we did, and we always did, is we did not, a lot of people, when things were going really well, a lot of people were calculating the returns on the property based on a 70% occupancy rate, okay? We never did that. 70 was normal, back then a couple of years ago in the Smokies, people say, oh, 70% or 75% occupancy rate. We've always been conservative with it, where we say it's, the max I will go in my underwriting is 60%. Okay. And that occupancy rate makes a huge difference in your returns. So being really careful about the underwriting is absolutely critical. Every offer that we put in is, I want to insulate to the downside. So I'm trying to offer below asking in most cases. We're not going and asking anymore, because I do believe that, the market might drop a little more in the vacation rental space as we find more property managers or operators falling out. I think we're going to see the prices drop down just a little more. So insulating to the downside is important, and at least I would leave, 5%. Don't offer, even 5 to 7% within asking. I'd keep it, offer prices low, underwrite with, very conservatively, like 55 to 60% occupancy, and that's it. And don't go by AirDNA. That's the thing. People look at AirDNA and people look at other sources and say, oh, AirDNA says this is 70% occupancy at $400 a night. That's just an estimate, that's not a science. So you have to really understand the market. I would certainly get a couple of local property managers and get their quotes, and know that you will typically outperform as a self-manager by at least 15 to 20% from there. So just be cautious in that acquisition process, in my opinion.
Great, thank you.
And in this environment, by the way, one of the things I would not do is new construction. I'm stuck in 3 new construction projects myself that have taken forever. I would rather put my money in and start cash flowing those properties almost immediately. So I want to stay away from all new construction or major rehab projects unless there is a true 30 to 40% value add into that property.
Wow, that's great advice. Client challenges. What are some of the major things that you've seen and you've helped them through? Anything you can talk about specifically comes to mind?
So the biggest challenge in the vacation rental space from a coaching perspective is mindset. Okay. What people don't realize, especially if they're coming from a background where they're investing in multifamily or single family, and you and I both know, in multifamily or single family, a small shift in the equation, whether, hey, I need to install a hot water heater or I need to replace a hot water heater, is a big decision, because a couple thousand a year could wipe out your profits from one door easily. Yeah. It's a volume game. The cash flow is smaller, but it's a volume game because you're doing 24, 36 units or whatever it is or more. With vacation rentals, your cash flow is so much bigger that you can afford to go making those changes, those small changes in improvements and things like that. I would rather see a property that has those defects that I could go rectify for a small price and not worry it won't impact my cash flow as much, because these properties generally cash flow a lot more. But having these clients work with their mindset is so critical, right? Helping them understand how to invest in vacation rentals and short-term rentals from a mindset perspective, I think, is the biggest challenge. Most of them will also argue upon, hey, 0.25% in the interest rate. And I'm like, okay, guys, I'll tell you what, doing the deal is more important, because the cash flow is going to offset that so easily. Even in this market with the high interest rates, whether it is 7.75 versus 8%, based on the cash flow we're seeing for some of these properties, it doesn't matter. It's minor change. If we optimize our listing just a little more, we'll make up for that difference. So stop thinking about it from that perspective of a long-term or a multifamily investor, where it's a difficult way to comprehend that, oh my goodness, I need to go change the hot water heater on this unit, or I need to change the HVAC system. Yeah, it's 10 grand, but you know what? That property is going to gross 250 grand next year compared to another investment that's going to do 180. Your 10 grand will be made up in less than a year. Why do you care? Go get that property. And it's just a mindset. That's the challenge.
Love it. Yeah. Love that. Cameron, go ahead, buddy.
Yeah, don't worry, Grant. I've got plenty of questions too.
Keep them coming, man. Keep them coming.
What's your current client criteria? And then, so is it gross revenue, a percentage of income your company's bringing in? And then 2, how are you going through and auditing those on a yearly basis to say which clients still fit your brand, your growth, and even from a issues level, 20% of the clients can be 80% of your problems. So how are you constantly evaluating your business to maintain a, say, gross profit margin for each client?
Excellent question. And I'll tell you why, because I'm going through that thought process right now. We're property managers by, or co-hosts by accident. right? Because we built our systems and processes, is essentially my old coaching clients for the last 3 years, the ones I've been coaching are like, hey, can you manage our property for us, right? Okay, great. And in year one, this year, and I'm talking purely from a property manager perspective, please don't do what I'm doing, okay? I'm just saying, because year one, my priority is to grow, right? We've grown to managing 20 doors right now. And between you and me and this call here, we've got our painful clients. We know that they love to micromanage every little thing. And honestly, we can't deal with that because there's so many moving parts in vacation rentals. Oh, the description changed. Yeah, we changed it because we want to keep your listing fresh. Oh, but wait, it says this thing on the bottom here that's not necessarily 100% accurate. I'm like, guys, okay, you know what? Here's if you haven't heard, newsflash, nobody's reading your freaking description. Okay, yeah, it needs to be there, so it's there. By the time they get to that, it doesn't matter because next week we're changing the description again. So stop bickering about it, right? Our goal is to maximize revenue for it. So this year we're growing. Generally speaking, our criteria is that the unit makes at least $100,000 a year, okay? We charge 15% of gross revenue. 15% of gross revenue is $15,000 a year, which is worth the headache for me. When I have 50 properties, makes sense. My goal is to grow as fast as possible. We're at 20 properties so far, right? And it's April, whatever the date is, April beginning, right? We're 1 quarter in, and we're at 20 properties. By the end of the year, by December 31st, we need to be managing 50 properties. Come January of next year, with a 90-day notice, I'm going to find the bottom 10% of those properties, the bottom 5 to 10 properties, whatever it is on the bottom, and I'm going to say, I got to cut this off. If either it's been a headache to manage, they're not performing like they should, even though we know we've done everything possible, or if that client just won't let us be. I mean, let's face it, I want to help out everyone, I want to do everything, but the brand and that experience, to me, I can create that at most properties if you will let me. But I'm not going to deal with the bullshit. You're going to give me some autonomy in doing some stuff, and if you're going to babysit me in year 2, you're going to get cut. That's the bottom line, right? Because end of the day, I don't ever want to be a Vacasa or one of these big brands, Evolve, who are basically everything for everyone and not really doing much for anyone, right? So we need to build a brand that is truly doing phenomenal things. If you come and be a part of the Adventure Awaits brand with your property, we know it's going to be a winner. We're going to make it a winner if you will let us, right? So that's how we're going to look at this. But yes, we're going to cut some stuff at the end of the year. I hope I answered that question.
No, super detailed. I think everyone looks at that a little bit differently, and I'm in year 1 too, and so I have a lot of growth. But some of these clients, I can already tell. We'll see if, depending on how this goes the next year, if they still end up fitting. For my company.
So the way I envision it, and again, if I have a couple more minutes for this question, the way I envision it is, and again, because GoBundance is a community of entrepreneurs, right? I want you to do what I'm doing. I don't look at you guys as people I'm going to coach or customers. These are people who I'm trying to help do what I'm doing. And here's what I would do. I like to get up in the food chain as far as possible, which means when you start thinking about vacation rentals, I want you then. So here's what I've done in the last 6 months. I've launched a coaching program. I've launched a podcast. I spoke to Jamie about it and all that stuff. So a bunch of stuff I've learned from GoBundance. I'm building a brand where people say vacation rentals, let's go to Vacation Rental Mastery. Okay, you want to become a master of vacation rentals, you're going to go to vacationrentalmastery.com and you're going to find a program that suits you. We're going to have a course and we have a cohort program. You come out of it, about 50% of those people will say, I want to manage my own property. Great, we gave you all the tools, you paid us to get educated, we gave you all the tools, that's great, you got it. But then there's going to be about a 50% chance that those people say, I love this, I got my tax break, I've got this property, I'm not really sure I'm cut out to do this work. Because you and I both know this isn't easy. And those go directly into our property management funnel, okay? So we just take over and manage those properties. It might as well be a property I bought because I helped them buy it, I helped them put it in service, and guess what? We're going to manage it. So I already know the property, I already know the client, I know everything about it, right? So it's easier to get it into my property management funnel. What we're actually going to be launching in the second half of this year, and Grant, I think this answers another question you had, is completely turnkey. Okay. The rule from a depreciation perspective for vacation rentals or short-term rentals is that you need to self-manage the property in the year that you put it in service only. So come June, July, you'll be able to come to us and say, I have $200,000 to invest. Okay. We will help you find the property. We will help you buy the property. We will help you acquire and launch the property. You don't even have to make an effort to truly manage the property, because we will be your consultants, babysitting you in the back end and helping you out in self-managing the property. And come January 1st, we're going to take over. You've gotten your tax break because you self-manage the property in year one. You only closed in October and November because you started your search in June, July. In October and November, you got the property. You self-managed for a couple months, knowing that you don't even have to deal with putting in place all this other shit, all this other management stuff. And Jan 1st, we take over and we manage it. So kind of almost turnkey. So lots of growth, lots of things there, man.
I like it. It's also nice that you're involved in the purchase and the design.
Yeah.
And that gives you a ton of leg up, because when you get these transferred clients that expect you to improve their revenue by 30%, but not spend an extra dollar.
Correct.
It's a headache, right? You're like, I can do so much.
Oh yeah, and I'm getting 12 weeks to work on their mindset, which they're paying me to do. So that's even better.
Yeah, and expectations are set too, because they know what you're doing.
Yep. Awesome.
Nice, Cameron. Great questions, man. I got a question. So I got a buddy, he's in GoBundance. And I know we've all heard this, and I'm not in the short-term space or midterm, whatever. But my buddy's like, yeah, he had, it was his boss actually that rented his property for a month. First day he gets there, he says, this is not what I expected. I want my money back. I'm going to sue you. He's just going through this. I'm sure you probably know who the guy is, but I'm not going to say it.
Actually, I don't, but okay.
But like, how often does that happen? I mean, there's, no matter what you do, you're going to have problems. I mean, things happen. But how often do you come across things like that where it's like nuclear like that?
Nope, never.
Okay.
I've never had it, and we've hosted, I don't know, hundreds of guests, thousands of guests at our properties, but hundreds of bookings at least across all our portfolio. And we've never had something like that happen. Now, one of the things that we've done very recently, like we started I think it's official April 1st, we just signed the contract with them, is there's a company called Safely, Safely. Okay? Safely is specifically insurance for vacation rentals and short-term rentals, where it covers things like guest damages. You won't believe it, people, and no offense to any women in the group here, but makeup on white towels. We use white everywhere, and it's like they destroy by default. Every guest has something, some destroyed linen. You can go through the process of claiming with all these other, with Airbnb and all this stuff, but they almost always side with the guest. So Safely is a third-party insurer who charges us per night. For $9.96 a night, they basically cover all these guest damages, and they give us $100,000 in liability coverage. And they become primary coverage, which means you don't even go to your home insurance guys or anyone else. If something like this happens, you actually go to them and they defend you and they pay out for it, and they have a really good reputation for it. If you up it to like 15, and that gives us like $1,500 coverage for all these incidentals, $1,500 for any damage to the property, and $100,000 in coverage for any sort of liability stuff. Then we have the second tier, which is $15 a month, and it's like $500,000 in coverage, liability coverage, and $5,000 for everything else. So we just signed that because we don't want to deal with all the stuff with Airbnb and everything. They typically will side with the guests, but luckily we've never had this happen. We have all the little stuff happen, all day long, but nothing else.
That's great to hear, because again, right, you only hear like your Uncle Bob telling you all the bad stuff, right? So that's great to hear. How do you handle? Do you get 3-star reviews or ever? I mean, like my old boss used to say, we should be able to Google star review people. Like that, I should be able to give someone a 1-star, right? You can look at their stars and go, well, this is a 1-star person. I'm not gonna listen to this review. How do you handle that? How do you handle reviews? So
When we only had our own properties, right, before we managed for others, things were a lot more in our control, where we could manage every review that came in, and we knew we were getting 5 stars all around. Now that we're managing other people's properties, and some properties we've never even seen, it becomes really difficult to keep those things. And 90%, 95% of all issues are resolved before they get to the star stage, right? We're resolving because we have a 24/7 concierge team. That's the other thing we do under our brand, Adventure Awaits. There's a 24/7, there's someone available to answer your question. When the guest calls in at or sends a message at 3 a.m. and says, hey, the toilet's running, it has this ghost flush, right? They're not expecting you to go and fix that then. They're just expecting you to acknowledge and say, oh, I'm so sorry that the carbon monoxide detector is beeping. We'll send someone there first thing in the morning to take care of it. That's what they want. So we give them concierge services, which is 24/7. We've got 3 shifts, and our VAs in the Philippines will answer no matter what. That will deflect 90% of bad reviews coming. The time people give bad reviews is when they don't get a response. So 95% of issues are resolved there. Very rarely do we get a 3-star review, but if we do end up getting it, I take my chances. There's third-party services now that get it removed. I offer the owner the chance and say, do you want to pay $80 and get this removed? Yes, we'll work with them and get it done. There's word that those things may cause you to get banned, but I don't know. I've had luck with it, and I take my chances there. But we dodge 95% of those bad reviews.
I love that. And I've always said that too. People just want to be heard in property management. They want to vent and just want to, oh, this is a problem. And then if you listen, like with your concierge service, I think that's amazing.
Yeah.
And then they just listen and they're heard. I think that's an excellent
That's
idea.
all they care about. They know, and you know that you're not going to be able to fix that HVAC at 3 a.m.
Yep.
They just want you to say, I'm sorry for the inconvenience. Please, hey, can we buy you breakfast instead or something? Just make them feel a little nice. That $10 just saved us a 3-star review. And then, of course, we have a system where we tell our VAs, again, an SOP that says, if you had an issue with a guest, do not send them that message. Our system automatically generates a message and says, leave us a review. We will conveniently cancel that message so that we don't send you a message saying, leave us a review, because there's a chance you don't give us a great review, right? Yeah. Even though we tried. So we just skip that review altogether.
I think that's an amazing idea. Before we bought this house, I lived in a Class A apartment downtown St. Pete. And listen, the elevator broke down constantly. The air conditioner at some point, and this is a brand new building, 2019. Things happen. Brand new buildings anywhere. I mean, things happen. And good thing is, we knew that. So we didn't try to get on anybody. We just said, hey, we've gone through the same problems with our properties. So things happen, but it's nice to see you guys handle these, and you guys are on top of it. Just that communication is just huge.
Oh yeah, and you know what? We've also upped our game recently with ChatGPT coming in. My team, they literally go in and they take that message and they put it in ChatGPT and say, give me an amazing response that shows empathy for this, and boom, there's a message. They take it and they put it there, and it's amazing. And I'm like, the Philippine team, who's in a completely different culture, responds like amazing customer service guys saying, we feel for you and sorry about this and that. It's just unbelievable.
I got one more question for you. I had a hard stop, but I got to ask you this one more thing. How are you finding your VAs in the Philippines?
We've tried a few different ways. We started off with a recruiting firm. You may have heard of them, Spear Rocket. So they're specifically, sorry?
Dave Homniak's?
No, this is pre-GoBundance. I've had VAs for 3 years, and Sphere Rocket is a third party recruiter. It was very expensive. That was my first recruit, but she's also my all-star, right? After that, I've done onlinejobs.ph. I've tried a couple other recruiters. It hasn't worked out. I like to direct hire them versus through an agency, which is what Dave does, which is why I'm like, these guys, when they get that additional $1 or $2 an hour, they're so appreciative, because for them, $5 an hour is life-changing. And I'd rather give them all the money. And now actually what I've been very successful with is my main manager who's there, she finds me local people, and even if they're not qualified, I give them a chance because there is there's a social obligation for them to perform, right? It is Maria who recommended us. We're going to do whatever we can to perform. I cannot find anyone straight anyways who's fully capable of handling what we're doing. They have to be trained. I give them 6 months to truly come on board. But I know that because they're coming in with the right attitude and they've been referred by someone else, they're more likely to be successful. So that's how we do it.
I love that. I love that. This has been amazing, man. I really appreciate Karan, you coming on and just letting us all know, guys. If you guys could all unmute and give them a standing ovation, I would appreciate it. If you guys unmute yourself in 3, 2, 1, thank you, man.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now,
This was huge,
and guys, if you'll see me on Facebook, you can follow us on Vacation Rental Mastery. I'm all over the place these days. So again, you can find me in the GoBundance groups. You can find me, anywhere. If you have any questions, listen, you don't need to be a client. You don't need anything. Listen, you're part of GoBundance. I'm going to help you do whatever you need. Find me one way or the other. I will put my cell phone number right here and message me, and I will be happy to jump on a call, help you out with whatever you need, and help you kind of pave this way. Whatever you need, just reach out.
And what's the podcast?
It's called Vacation Rental Mastery.
Vacation Rental Mastery, and we can find that on YouTube, on Spotify, Apple Music.
Correct. That is correct.
Everything.
Yes.
Great. Subscribe to that too, guys. I'm sure.
Thank
That's just
you.
a
Yeah,
lot of knowledge
and
too, man.
we've had a few GoBros on the podcast, and we just started. This is in the last 3 weeks that we've launched 2 episodes a week. And again, if you guys are doing anything like this, hey, come on board. I'm looking for people to come and join this podcast. Let's have a great conversation, just like this. Let's sit in and let's talk. Let's talk about your stuff and see what we can do. So yeah, it's whatever you guys need. Reach out. Happy to help.
Hey, thanks, Karan. Appreciate it again, man. Great meeting you. Can't wait to meet you in person. And to everybody else, thanks for jumping on. This was awesome. Great questions. I learned a ton. I appreciate all of you. And we will see you all again soon.
Thank you, guys.
guys.
Really
See
appreciate
you guys.
it. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us on Vacation Rental Mastery. Don't forget to subscribe and tune in for our next episode, where the journey to financial freedom and lifestyle flexibility continues. Here's to your success in the exciting world of vacation rentals.